Hello there. In my last video we built the aluminium framework for the tree camping portaledge. In this video I'm going to deal with the base material and all the webbing support straps. Now obviously that's going to involve a lot of sewing, which I'm looking forward to, and I'll be using this Singer semi-industrial sewing machine. When I first bought this a couple of months ago, it was very fast and a bit uncontrollable. So I did about 4 mods to it and it brought the speed down about 1/3 and made it a lot more controllable. I did a video on those modifications about a month ago if you're interested, but it's made it ideal now for a project like this. It's nice and slow and it'll go through several layers of polyester webbing, so it's just right. Now we'll have a look at the materials I'm going to use. The main sort of base material is this ballistic nylon. I could not find any of this in the UK and ended up buying this from America, and it cost as much in postage as it did for the material. It's 840 denier ballistic nylon. You can get a thicker and you can get a thinner, so I've gone for like a midway, but it's about the strongest material you can get for a project like this. The other materials. Right, for the main webbing straps I'm using this, it's 1-inch polyester webbing. It's 1,000 kilogram rating. I've also got same material but in red. I'm going to use that for securing those webbing straps to the framework. And to make the straps adjustable, I've got these, they're known as cam locks. So they're a great way of making that webbing totally adjustable. Other materials, on the raw edges of the ballistic nylon, I'm going to use this 1-inch nylon binding tape. And again, for reinforcing the ballistic nylon on the edges, I've got this it's 4-inch polyester binding tape again. Now the main thread I'll be using is this bonded polyester. It's very strong and very weather and UV resistant. That's size of that is Tech 69. And the needles, that's a universal needle, quite sharp, it'll go through the ballistic nylon, and that's a ballpoint needle. That will more part the fibres, and I'm going to use it for the webbing. I have got some stronger thread and bigger needles which I've not yet tried, but I might use that. That's a Tech 295 thread. I might use that for their webbing, but I've not tried it on the machine yet. I'll see how I go with that. So that covers most of the materials, so I'm going to get on now, make a start. I'm going to make a pattern before I cut that expensive material first. That's a portaledge frame laid out on a piece of polycotton. It's only about £7 for 3 metres, and it's ideal for making a pattern. I've made use of like a cardboard template, and I'm going to use that to cut all the 4 corners out the same. So that's the 4 corners cut out now. I've done a check on all my measurements and I'm happy with everything, so now I'm going to transfer those measurements to the ballistic nylon and get that cut out. That's measurements from the pattern transferred over to the ballistic nylon, and that's all now cut to size. I can now show you what it's going to look like. The two sides will come over like that, stitched down there, and the two ends, they'll come over and there'll be tensioning straps fastened on there. Obviously I want to reinforce the edges. So the next stages are, I'm going to form a 1-inch hem on here, and then that will be folded over and very carefully stitched all the way down. Important, that stitching, so I've got to take care with it. These corner sections, you've got a raw edge of ballistic nylon there. So I'm going to use the nylon binding tape to bind that raw edge, because that will be seen, and it'll also prevent any fraying or wearing, and it looks a lot nicer as well. This bit here is going to form a method of tensioning it lengthways. So I'm going to use this, it's 4-inch polyester webbing. I'm going to put that on those edges there, and it'll give me a strong base to sew the tensioning straps on, and there'll be another piece of webbing across there, so you can then tighten it up lengthways. So I'm going to work my way through those next stages now. The next job is to bind the raw ballistic nylon edge in the 4 corners. I'm using this nylon binding tape to do that. It's nice and flexible. So what I've done, I've gone round and marked a 1/2 inch overlap. So I'm going to use a double-sided sticky tape again to stick the nylon down, fold it over, stick it the other side. I did see this morning, I was looking on the internet, and I saw some little plastic clips. They would be useful, so you could clip those all the way around. So that's the binding tape stuck in place, nice and neat, just where I want it. So we'll go and sew that in place now. I've bound all the 4 corners. I'm now just putting it's some webbing which will become part of the tensioning method. It'll all come more apparent when I get further on with the build. But I've upped the thread now. I managed to use it's a Tex 92 thread with a 20 needle. It's sort of, I didn't think the machine would take it, but it's doing fine. So we'll just get on and get this webbing in now. Just show you what I've been doing with this piece of webbing. As you can see, I've sewn it down the centre to hold it, down either side, and then I've zigzagged it all the way down to give it strength. So that's those 2 bits finished now. These are the 2 bits of webbing in place. See, the corners are done. So now for these 2 important rows of stitches, I want this to be tight at the end of the day. So I've marked rough position where it goes when it's taut, and I'm going to make it a little bit tighter. I could always adjust the length of that pipe if I've got it too tight, but I can't undo the stitching that easy. So that's the main seams sewn down, that bit's done. So now I've got these two central cutouts to form where the central suspension straps will go. So I've made a bit of a cardboard template. I'm going to get these cut out and then get the edges bound, same as we did at the corners. Very awkward bit this. I'm glad I've got the hand winding facility. I couldn't have done this under a powered machine. I'm doing an inch at a time. But it's very awkward. I'm having to move all the material around. So I moved on to next stage. I'm putting this reinforcing webbing on the end, each end of the Portaledge fabric. It's going to be part of the tensioning system to pull it tight. So I'm going to get on and get this sewn into place. So these are the tensioning straps for pulling the bed fabric lengthways. That's 1 inch webbing, and that's a 1 inch cam buckle. I've sewn the cam buckle on. It's just a matter now of stitching that onto this bit of reinforcing. Another webbing strap. That gets sewn on that bit of reinforcing. You thread that through the cam buckle, pull it that way, both ends, and that pulls the bed fabric up nice and tight. So I'll get all these sewn on, and then we'll have a look at it, because that's the bed structure itself more or less complete then. Now that the tensioning webbing is in place, that's main base of the portaledge completed. You can see we've got the central cutouts done, binding in place. We come up this side, you can see the tensioning webbing in place. The two sides have been stitched all the way down, and then up at this end, tensioning all done, and you can see I've got a red sling in place. I've just made that as a bit of a prototype, see that it fitted okay. So I've got 6 of those little slings to make. So I think the webbing's rated at 1,000 kilograms, so plenty strong enough that. So the next stage then is to get the 6 small slings made out of the red webbing, and the black webbing will be used to provide the main 6 suspension straps. But we'll look at that when we've got the others made. These are the red slings I've got to make up. I need 6 of these. And these are load bearing. These will support the weight of the portaledge. So I did get some quality webbing. This is 25mm polyester webbing. Before I started sewing any webbing, I read up about it. It was very interesting. The threads across the webbing are called the warp. The threads running lengthways are called the woof. So the strongest stitch is the one that crosses both threads. It's diagonal. So this is 25mm webbing. So you've got an overlap of 3 times that. So you want a 75mm overlap to get the strongest bond, and you've got to do 9 stitches, 9 lengthways stitches, and that will give you the strongest bond. So for information, I'm using 21 ballpoint needle. The ballpoint will part the fibres rather than pierce them. The thread is a Tex 90. Now I did sew up quite a few slings earlier on to prove my stitching. I went out and tested them to destruction. I made up this test rig and basically pulled the slings until they broke. Watch this. So I just wanted to test these slings before I carry on and make any more. The camera set up there, and that's the sling I've just made, similar to ones I'm going to use on the Portaledge. That's fastened to that tree be a sling. We've got a sling up here to a 3-ton pull lift, so I'm just going to crank it up and see where it snaps. That's really tight, probably about 1,000 kilograms on that. We'll take it until it breaks. So this is the broken bit of webbing. So the webbing broke, not my stitching failing. That side is completely intact. This side, just the webbing's broke. So I think I can say my stitching is fine. I might have had 1,500 kilograms on there, but the stitching held out. It was just the webbing that went. That's the last of the little red slings made up. I'm going to turn my attention to the suspension system now. Now what I intend making is 6 short slings like that. At this end there'll just be a simple loop, and that'll go to a rigging plate. At the bottom end it's going to be a cam buckle, and then the main webbing will come from the Portaledge through the cam buckle and the end down here, and that will make it fully adjustable, so you can alter the height, alter the angle of the Portaledge. So I've got these 6 to sew up, and then the long straps, and then that's basically most of the Portaledge done. There are quite a few finishing bits to do, but that's the main structure and there's a suspension setup done. Just going to get this cam buckle sewn in place on the webbing. Just a matter of putting the zigzags in now. And that's that sewn on. So that's that cam buckle in place. Starting to look like a Portaledge now. I've completed the red slings there all in place, and I've temporary hung the main webbing support straps. I'll just show you how it's all terminated. Right, up at the top, got a big carabiner and a rigging plate fastened to that. Below there, there's 3 mullions, and the short webbing straps I've just made, they're hung from there. They come down to those cam buckles, and then the main webbing straps are just hung loose at this stage. On the bottom of each of those I've got to sew a loop, and then that will connect to the little red sling, and that'll give the Portaledge its main suspension system. The cam buckles, they're in place so I can adjust the length of the webbing slings for what height I want it and what angle I want it. So I'm going to get those little loops sewn on the end, and then we'll get it all assembled and suspended, see what it looks like. That's the main structure of the Portaledge finished now. Got a few other little jobs to do, little finishing touches, but I'll do those at a later stage. What I've still got to do, I'm going to put some daisy chains on here, little webbing loops to support, well, hang gear from, and I'm going to do the same underneath, so again you can hang gear on, just a simple webbing loop. Also the loops underneath, if it's moving a bit in the tree, I might use those to lash it to adjacent branches, make it a bit more stable. Another job, these straps, I've not terminated them yet. I'm not 100% sure how high I want to set it. Once I've got the correct measurement, I'll sew these back onto these straps, and then it makes it a continuous loop through the cam buckle. The end can't come out. So I've got that to do. I'll do that later on. Other jobs, these corner blocks need fastening to the end tube. Just a simple stainless nut and bolt through there, and then it makes that end bit captive then. I'm going to put in a little suspended handle. I've seen them on YouTube. Bit of a webbing strap, a little bar, so then when you're laid on the bed you can get hold of the handle and pull yourself up. Straightforward to make. I'll probably do one of those. And then the final thing, well, in a way I want it in a bag, so you hang it on a sling in a tree and then just unfold it, clip it all together. To do that, everything needs shock cord putting all the way round, so it'll hold everything together and it should just snap together. That's my plan. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I will look at it in a bit more detail, but that's what I intend doing. So once I've got all those jobs completed, in a later video we'll go and try it out in a tree for real. see how it performs, what it feels like. So all I can say for this video is thanks for watching, hope you found it interesting, and I'll see you up in the canopy in a couple of weeks time. See you then, bye.